Welcome to Commander Pop Culture, a place to gather magical information with some laughs, might I add.
Hello, everyone. I know it's been a while. I've been recovering. I got sick for like a week. Been busy. I got new glasses. My beard's more full. All the good things are going my way. And obviously, the new set is officially releases tomorrow. All the pre-release stuff happened this weekend. I hope you all had some great polls. Based on my YouTube channel, you guys all voted on Indominus Rex being one of your favorites. So the community tab will be left open, so you can cast your votes or change them after I build the decks and play them. Feel free to vote on what you want me to try out next. This deck posed a lot of interesting challenges. Not so much of like budget constraints, I should say, was an issue. This is $150, so on average you're paying $1.50 per card. It's a budget deck where nothing is greater than $5. So obviously the commander's a little bit more because it just came out this weekend. Can't be helped, but if you happen to pull one in your pre-release kits or open one in your packs, I brewed up a list for you at an affordable price. Indominus Rex specifically has two ETB triggers. There's one that makes you discard creatures and then puts keyword counters on it. The other one is you draw cards equal to number counters on them. You could fill your deck with a ton of creatures with a lot of keywords that don't do a whole lot. So what's an example? Wilson. Wilson is a 2/2 bear with 3 keyword abilities on him. That's like part of the problem, is they're not very threatening creatures to your opponents, nor is your commander. Your commander is just a 6/6 with a bunch of keywords on it.
Very bad! Very bad!
It would take a lot of swings for you to kill a lot of people pretty consistently, and I don't want to be just filling my deck with too many things with just keywords without significant stat blocks. So I took that into consideration and I started just jamming as many of these big scary things, because I want to take advantage of my creatures not only when they're in my hand for when I discard to Indominus Rex trigger. I want to have a reanimation package and have things worth reanimating from your graveyard to play. Reanimation package, I have things like Phyrexian Reclamation, and I have Cauldron of Eternity and a couple of instants and sorceries that do the job. But your big payoffs, the win conditions of the deck is Twilight's Call and Living Death. So you're just trying to fill up your graveyard with as many biggins as you can get with Indominus Rex ETB triggers, and then Alpha Strike people with these Twilight Call and Living Death cards. The beauty of Indominus Rex is it lets you churn through your deck and find those cards faster, because for every keyword that you end up discarding that's unique, the card replaces itself. So Bond 2, for instance, has 2 keywords. That's Menace and Indestructible. You discard it, you put those 2 counters on it. It's a card that not only replaces itself, but nets you a card. You want at least 2 keywords on every creature that you have, and you want the creature to be significant and worthy of reanimating from your graveyard. A lot of these creatures that I put in this deck are like 5 power or greater. If they're less, they have significant stuff on them. So like Indestructible is a significant keyword. Anything that protects your commander, I would say, is worth dipping below, or if you have triple keywords or more on a single creature. There aren't a lot of them, so they're kind of like auto includes. In this deck, you have 10 plus ramp, 10 plus removal spells, and you have 2 board wipes, and that basically leaves you with 33 cards of synergy, and that synergy includes the reanimation package, the creatures with keywords. There's actually a quadruple keyword creature in this deck, and that's I never played it before.
I have no memory of this.
Scavenge Brawler is pretty awesome, and you can exile from your graveyard, put +1/+1 counters on your very own commander. So that is pretty insane. He also lets you put keyword abilities on stuff. You could activate it at instant speed. So say you have a grip of cards that have 0 keywords in your hand. You could drop your commander. If you have 5 mana left over and this is in your graveyard, you just exile it. With the ETB trigger on the stack, you throw all the counters on it. Indominus sees all those counters, and you would draw a ton of cards. We're at the next kind of like unfortunate discussion of this deck is that it's a very casual deck. You could sink thousands of dollars into this deck and it still wouldn't be too terribly competitive. You would probably get blown out by any deck with a heavier and more consistent synergy. Like, you're gonna get wrecked by artifact strategies, you're gonna get wrecked by enchantment strategies. But if you're playing good old-fashioned kitchen table Magic, this should just do just fine. And even on a budget, I'm only missing out on one triple keyword ability, and that's Elder Gargaroth. It's like a $10 card. Beyond that, it's just quality of life stuff. Like, a lot of sweet reanimator cards are really popular and thus very expensive, so I had to put more of the fair and cheap ones in this deck. I make those decisions so everyone can afford to play these decks. It's unrealistic of me to be making recommendations for decks that are $400 plus. Even $150 makes me feel a little uncomfortable asking people to spend that much. But like I said, a $1.50 average, you probably have a lot of these cards on hand. You probably have them in your binder for trade. It's a good starting point, nonetheless. And if you're looking for something that's not competitive, this is probably gonna be up your alley. But we'll go over the card choices. Birds of Paradise, it's one of my staples in green if I have a choice in ramp. I prefer ramp cards to be 2 mana or less. Same with my removal. Efficiency is important in Commander since the game is getting more and more fast. You can't really afford to be playing. You could play things like Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, but I would only put those things in if your deck average is really high. My deck average, it's a little skewed because I'm going to be playing a lot of biggins with a lot of keywords, but I'm not going to be casting them. I'm going to be cheating them into play. So for the most part, it's really efficiently costed. The high-end creatures, CMC-wise,
they're kind of like cannon fodder,
for your Indominus Rex triggers. Medicine Indestructible, evasion and protection is spectacular, and that's why this is in here. Copper Host Crusher, this is a worthy reanimation target. It's an uncommon, but it's an 8/8 uncommon with trample and hexproof. More evasion, more protection. Same with Craigplay Bailoff. Probably pick up a lot of these. These are pennies, 3 cents, 5 cents. Pretty sweet deals. Demon of the Death Gate, as an alternative cost, you can sack 3 black creatures and 6 life to cast this instead, but we don't care about that. We care about the flying and trample and that it's a 9/9. That's all we care about. We don't even care about the CMC. Who cares, right? Demon of Loathing, same story. Demon Lord Belzenlock, I like the ETB trigger on this. Just a little extra value. When you ETBs, you draw a card and reveal it. If it's CMC's 4 or greater, you lose 1 life and you get to repeat that process. If you get to find more fodder for the Indominus Rex, perfect. Earthquake Dragon, 10/10. Enray's Forerunners has a nice Anthem ETB trigger with Vigilance and Trample, but what you really care about is the stat block and the triple keywords. Grimmax Swiftwing, this is one of my exceptions of, things being of weaker power but with more keywords. There aren't a lot of them with 3 or more, so you make exceptions. I think there's only 6 or 7 in the deck in total that have 3 keywords on them, or just in the game in general. So I did all that work for you. Don't waste your time trying to find more. This is essentially a draw 3 for 1. Kefnet, not a good reanimation target because it won't be attacking, but gives flying and indestructible to your commander. Master Biomancer. The Indominus Rex has its text is split into 2 parts, and you could actually layer those on the stack. Same with the Biomancer trigger. On ETB, Biomancer goes on the stack. Same with the 2 Indominus Rex triggers. You just simply have to put the Master Biomancer trigger on last. So it happens first, gets the 2+1/+1 counters. You get to discard a bunch of cards, the Indominus Rex trigger, and then you draw based on the number of counters on them. So that's why he's in here, just a little extra value. Nighthawk Scavenger and Miri the Cursed. Both triple words. I like Nighthawk a lot more because it's obviously a much scarier body than the rest of these things. And lifelink, there aren't a lot. There are not enough creatures with lifelink that have other keywords on them. Another triple word, Notion Thief. This is one of those staples in Dimir that you have to include. If you can mess with people's draws or you can mess with people tutoring, you always should. And Notion Thief is a staple because you get them for 87 cents. A lot of people piss and moan about him, but he's a necessary evil in the game of Commander because people love drawing cards, and drawing cards is king. If you ever notice, as a subscriber or if you're new here, the person who draws the most cards typically wins the game. It's because they have the most amount of options out of everybody in the table. Keep that in mind before you swing your, I don't know, your 8/8 at a guy that only has seen 5 cards that game. Ornithopter Paradise, just a mana rock that can tap for all the colors. There's only a handful of these. Unconditionally, there's this one, and then there is Arcane Signet. So you should always throw these in if you're operating on a budget. Felwar Stone is also in here, but that's conditional. Another big body with Lifelink and Menace. Lifelink is really important in this deck because you're going to probably be attacking every turn, or at least you should be. Lifelink is one of those keywords that mitigate crackbacks, and if you could deal more damage than you receive, Lifelink makes that happen. If you're ever playing a Voltron strategy or you're playing an aggressive strategy, I always include Lifelink or Vigilance. Another big boy, Trample and Hexproof. Questing Beast, I have some extra to say about this guy. Outside of it being a triple word card, people forget that this nullifies abilities that prevent damage. So like your Glacial Chasms do not work against Questing Beast, which is why I kind of like shoehorn him into a lot of my decks with green, and I rely on combat to win. It's because you can't prevent the damage. It also like deals with fog effects. Like there's one with buyback that's really obnoxious too, that kind of fits in that realm of fog strategies out there. Solitary Confinement doesn't work against Questing Beast. It's all around a greater utility than people give it credit for, because there aren't a lot of things that just say damage can't be prevented. Another triple word creature, another indestructible option. I like Ronas a lot because it's also a mana sink to help your commander get a little bit bigger. Just some sweet value. Sakura Tribelda. Sorry, I like to read some things a certain way. He is just a 2-mana ramp spell, lets me get anything I need at the time. Good flexibility. I already talked about Scavenge Brawler. The value, this is the pinnacle of value, and even the most expensive version of this deck. Swordhoof Chieftain, big body, good animation target. Thrasta, same story. Big body with even more value. Unchenbach, the great mistake. He's got Descend 8, meaning you can play him from your graveyard. Just some nice value if you got nothing else better to do. I put Soul Ring in this deck because there's just simply no other better ramp option in this budget. I always get people that tell me I don't run Soul Ring in 3 color or more decks, and I strongly disagree that you should still include it. If you haven't noticed, looking through all these cards, is that everything has a generic cost to it. It lets you string together multiple spells together. Even though it's not tapping for colored mana, it's still useful to you. Outside of drawing the most cards in the game, the person who casts the most spells also wins the game. 2 very simple rules in Magic. I even run Soul Ring in my 5-color decks. You'll notice that majority of the cards in your deck are just monocolored, and you're just throwing them all into there. Sure, getting your pips matters, but I can't stress enough how important ramp like Soul Ring is. Just think about that kind of stuff when you decide to take it out, because
Don't do it.
you really shouldn't. Terra Sunder has been one of those very flexible removal spells that I've been liking a lot. If I'm in Golgari colors, it's an auto include. There's been a bad rash of One Rings in people's decks and people abusing them. This works because it exiles an artifact or enchantment, because the One Ring is indestructible. It's a little bit of a meta game, but I was already running this a ton already because it has the flexibility of hitting any non-lane permanent if you pay the kicker cost. If you don't run Terra Sunder, I highly recommend you start. I love the charms that are in triple colors. I rarely play 3-color or more decks. It's always great to include these because they're so flexible. For some reason, I got this feeling of going for value in my deck builds. The Zendikar Rising lets you kind of fudge your land count. It says I'm running 29 by 33 if you count MDFC stuff. I've had so many games where you're in the mid to late game and the last thing you need is another land. MDFCs help you reduce that occurrence because you're running few of them. You have more gas and you're not exactly punished for it. I'm running all the ones within the budget range and are actually good in this deck. Malakir Birth lets you reanimate your commander and get more sweet triggers. Calling's a removal spell. Hagar Mauling's also a removal spell. Just chasing that value and increasing my removal count without sacrificing my land count, really. It also lets me devote more to the synergy parts of the deck. So if you have a chance to include MDFCs and fill in like the counts of removal or card advantage, I recommend you do it. I haven't ran these in a while, but I kind of miss them. So counting this as my card advantage and my ramp package, again, I needed a better creature package for my big old Twilight's Call and my Living Death play. I just needed to vote less and less to those, but I didn't want to sacrifice too much. Gross Spiral and Explore do that just fine. Painful Truce, if you're in black and in 3 colors, always run this. There's not anything better than investing 1 mana to see a card. This lets you see 3 cards for 3 mana. The rate's perfect. More reanimation package stuff. This only cares about it being non-legendary and he gets a -1 native counter on it. Okay. I prefer Snow Basics because I don't want to get got by Explanar Lens, because the lens is now like a $6 or $7 card. It's pretty affordable to everybody. I just don't want to miss out on the value. And all my lands outside of my basics come in untapped. And they're affordable. So if you're complaining that you can't afford a mana base, you know, you're upset because they're not reprinting dual lands, fetch lands, or what have you.
There's something better than this for you and
There's obviously plenty of options out there to play that work just fine. I hate tap lands. Tap lands cost you so much tempo. I make exceptions for the MDFC stuff, but for a 33 land count, I'm only running 8 basics. That's not a lot at all. The other 20 plus cards, they all tap for 2 or more colors. There's almost no reason to have a fear of playing a multicolored deck in this day and age. I hope you liked my deck build for Indominus Rex. I'm going to be playing it here soon. I don't know if it's at midnight, but if that was the case, in like 4 minutes, I might play it tonight and record it for all of you to post very soon. If you liked what you saw, subscribe. I'm going to go through and play at least 7 more decks and build 7 more decks. If you check out my community tab on my channel, you could take a vote on what you want me to play next. Those numbers are not set in stone, so feel free to change your vote after I've played your deck. So everyone have a great night. Take care now.